Thank you, Robin, again, and Lynn for the invitation. Fortunately, yesterday I had some time to start my presentation, so I can make a better use of my time. So, as a follow-up of what I was mentioning yesterday, what is what we have already in Mexico? Well, we have, thank you. This position in terms of the global markets as a attractive place to operate and produce high-tech products. Our manufacturing exports have been very dynamic in the last years. During the last 3 years, Mexico has been gaining around between 1 and 2 percentage points in the market share of U.S. imports in manufacturing, while China has been losing 3 percentage points. And also Mexico is the #1 exporter of manufacturing products in Latin America, contributing with 60% of total manufacturing imports. We also have been successful in moving towards just ensembling products like very basic manufacturing in the early 60s and 70s towards more design incorporated in this product. We are not only ensembling but also designing even in sectors in which there are not major Mexican companies like in the auto sector, but all of the major OEMs have not only plants in Mexico, but design and engineering sectors in centers in Mexico, and are already designing the presentation is here. I was looking at it here. Sorry. Okay, so now the challenge is how we keep on moving forward toward this base, and also taking this base to enter new markets. As Mike was saying, well, what about these global opportunities where big new firms are coming up from almost nothing, and where they can come from anywhere. But the advantage that Mexico has is that it's just around the corner, not only from the US, but from the Silicon Valley, and that gives an additional opportunity. Not only have we have been moving in this production and value added, but we can see that in terms of productivity. One of the biggest worries in a country in the competitiveness is how the cost of labor is moving. And in China, what we have been seeing is that the cost of labor has been increasing much faster than productivity. What we see in Mexico is the other way around. Productivity has been increasing faster than wages, actually. It's not good in terms of living conditions, but eventually the wage will catch up, and it's better to have this type of lag instead of the other way around, since that's what keeps on making attractive the investment. So what we have been doing to move forward these objectives and to actually achieve the opportunity of taking the manufacturing base that Mexico has to other sectors and to consolidate that position. Well, is to move to be working in several areas. One is a legal framework and governance in terms of improving the legal rights and the rule of law for investors. Mexico has been very strong in terms of giving certainty to investors, not only national investors, but also foreign investors. One of the reasons of having a free trade agreement is not only what it achieves in terms of trade and the facilitation of trade, but also in terms of the rights for investors. All these trade agreements include certain clauses for investors which imply legal rights that can be fight not only in Mexico but abroad. This has been a major policy that has been there for a long time. The other is macroeconomic stability, that at this stage of the global economy is really important. And this has been moving first in terms of inflation, but now it's in terms of the financial system. In Mexico, we had a big depreciation in 95, which was caused by a credit boom, and that implied bankruptcies and the rescue of the whole financial system at that time. So now Mexico has been moving forward, and I have to say forward than developed countries. Mexico is adopting right now Basel III, something that in Europe they are going to postpone that for a year. And it's not only that the Mexican banks are adopting this, but the cost of that is not something really significant, because the capitalization of the banks is really strong. So all this is in place, but and also trade policy as putting Mexico into the global economy as open as it can be. We have been moving forward very fast in liberating the economy, thinking that to really improve productivity, what we need is more competition and not less. And obviously, foreign competition is very important. So this has been a big issue in terms of the industrial sector in Mexico, especially during the crisis. It was very difficult to take a more opening when the other countries were closing their economies. But we think that in the medium and long term, this is very important to keep on going and to align incentives towards innovation. And the other two types of policies are related with exactly innovation and what we have been mentioning today and yesterday. And related to that, the financing. The financing of innovation is very important. So even though our financial system is very strong in terms of prudential capitalization, etc., it's not good in terms of access and getting into riskier markets. So it's important to work in these areas. So for that, we have been working in a national innovation program, which has in which we have been working together, the government, private sector, some universities, and and research centers, to defining what we have to do to promote innovation. We all talk about innovation. We know the importance of innovation. That is this residual that economists call innovation and technology development in the growth regressions, and it's exactly what we cannot measure. So Mike also said, well, what we will look for in disruptive enterprises, but the problem is how we generate that. That's what is not clear, how we do that. We cannot measure very clear when we have more innovation. He also mentioned it's not the number of companies, it's not the number of patents, it's not the number of PhDs. It's something very hard to measure. And it's also very hard to get what is the right ecosystem. So for that, it's important to have more collaboration, to have coordination, and to be working into certain policies that might work or might not work. So it's important also to have an evaluation of these policies and to move from what the program will give us as a learning experiences. It's also true that there are some models internationally, but there's not a unique model that works. Some models have worked. The most successful one, that is the Silicon Valley, is not something that started as a policy issue. It was more as a natural thing that a lot of things came in the right direction at some point. So it's very hard to work on that. So I won't say that this is the answer. But what we have to do is to start working, to collaborate, and to, very important, to have some evaluation to see what is not working and to change that. So we have policies in all these areas, and I don't have time to work on that. But one, and very important, has been the financing area, and that's the part that I want to work. When we start with this, in Mexico, there wasn't not even a venture capital, but private capital was almost inexistent, and this is clearly an element that is important so that the new entrepreneurs and these risky projects might get financing. So we start in 2006 working in building this ecosystem in terms of financing, going from the top in making the stock market stronger and to make it happen. So for that, there were a lot of regulation reforms and a lot of changes in investment regimes for institutional investors in order to generate incentives to increase the stock market. Then, before the stock market, we also need private capital to have some pipeline of firms that will need the exit as the stock market. So for that, in 2007, we launched a fund of funds so that to attract different private capital funds to Mexico. In one of the characteristics of all the programs that we have built is to generate a market, not to substitute the market, but to generate the market. So how could we bring the market participants, the private investors or private participants to the market so that all this government intervention is something of short run or a transitional thing. So it was a fund of funds. And after that, it was very successful. Now it's in the process of a second fund. But we also saw that it was important to have another, an early stage fund to generate new firms and to go exactly to these more innovative driven firms and technology firms. So another fund of fund was launched, that was in 2011. For venture capital, and in that we have also bring some foreign funds to Mexico, and now we are launching the seed seed capital fund of funds for even earlier stage. And with all this, a very important part is the government subsidies or support for tech projects and to start the innovation of for technologies, and that's mainly CONACYT. But CONACYT usually was very distant for the business community, and especially for from the innovators. Was probably close to the chambers of industrials, which are more firms that are in traditional markets and that are not very innovative. And or with very big firms which invest a lot in technology and innovation, but probably are not going to be very disruptive. So in all, one of the major issues in this program is to work together the different government parties, which is the Ministry of Economy, CONACYT, and AFIN, which is a development bank, and see that the programs that each of us have are consistent and are part of one big program. Even though they are run by the different agents, the objective is that a project or an idea that starts here has funding from all over its development, and that when the market, when it's possible that the market comes, the market is there. So this strategy has been moving quite fast. This is from 2006 to 2007, and we all, from 2006 to 2012, and we already see some of the results. This is the program. Let me move. Oh, this is nice. Wow. Some of the results. So when we were in 2007, we basically didn't have any venture capital. We had 19 private equity funds, but with managing around $1 billion. Now it's $8 billion and 45 funds in private equity. In terms of venture capital, there were 2 funds in 2006 and very minor one. Now we have 10 Mexican funds, plus all the foreign funds that are coming to Mexico. We also have some seed capital funds, which are 4 Mexican ones, and that are in the process of investing their resources in new firms. There's also more collaboration between universities and the firms, the private sector community, especially with the venture capitals, and looking for generating these new ideas. Now the participation of private equity in GDP is starting to grow, even though it's still very low in Mexico, and even if we compare it with the rest of Latin America, where it's in some countries, like in Brazil, it's higher than 1% of GDP. It's in the process of growing. And also there's these accelerators that are taking place, and that now they are generating some firms. Also in terms of some competitiveness, to have some type of indicators, this has been already translated into some indices, especially this is from the World Economic Forum. And in the cases where Mexico has been moving faster is exactly in the participation of the private sector, in the collaboration between university and industry, and also in terms of human capital. So these are some results. Obviously, it's not enough, and Mexico still have a long way to go. But the direction is in the right way, as we were mentioning. So what we have now? Now we have an entrepreneurship culture that is in place. Now there are different alternatives for financing, and we have a specialized fund in different technologies, like in health or in IT, or in new markets. And these are looking for different firms. All these are new firms. Probably some of the owners of these firms are sitting here. And these type of firms that are based in technology, or that are new ideas in new markets, had been impossible to get financing not 10 years ago, but 4 or 5 years ago. And now they are taking place in Mexico, and they are finding financing. So the ball is moving in that direction. So some final comments. So Mexico is in the right moment, and I want to emphasize that this is in great deal because the consistency of policies toward this type of economy. Even though innovation was not a major issue 10 years ago and in Mexico, it was an issue to move towards the major countries, and for that we had to have this type of economy, a very open economy, very integrated with the world, and that's a place which would gives conditions to attract this venture capital or private equity, what we call smart capital, because it has all these other externalities in addition to the money. We also have this ecosystem for innovation, which is friendly to leverage the current global position of the Mexican economy, obviously trying to get this very big business, but also to get business that can work together with the manufacturing firms that are already in Mexico. One thing that we are promoting, and we are getting also a Silicon Valley company. I don't know if some of you have heard about Tech Shop, which is a very nice kind of, they call themselves a gym, but it's not a gym to make exercise, but it's a gym to make innovative projects. It can be in manufacturing, it can be in IT. It's like a big lab with very nice equipment, and they have, the only reason why it's like a gym is because you pay a monthly fee, and for that you can use the equipment, and you have also classes. So we are taking them to Mexico, because what is very nice about them is that they are taking this thing of technology where you don't need a big plan to make a prototype and to produce some new products, but you can use a 3D printer or other type of equipment. And this is something that, in addition to what I've said, helps to start these new firms and to start supplying either products, parts, or technology, IT services to the big companies that are already in Mexico. Now, but obviously the challenge is huge, so we have to keep on working in simplifying the operation of new firms in Mexico. There's a lot that has been done in the late years, but it's still not as easy as we would want. We also have to generate more incentives for the collaboration between firms and research centers. The research assets that Mexico hasn't been really translated into innovation. So it's an area that has to be moving faster. And also use the big challenges that Mexico has to generate innovation. Something that was very important in the Silicon Valley was the investment that the government had in military technology to generate this other parallel ecosystem. And so that's what Mexico has to do, definitely not in military services, but we have challenges in terms of water, scarcity, in terms of obesity, for example, in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of poverty. All these challenges that has Mexico can be solved with innovation and new technology. So how could we use this budget that we are using in solving these type of problems also as a way to generate more innovation in the country? So these are more challenges, but also the opportunities for keep on going with this momentum in Mexico. Thank you.